I want to, since we spoke about the future possibility of what happens when even countries that are far at the beginning of their development trajectory start to invoke the same sort of privileges, or not privileges, or at least the necessities that developing countries like India right now are claiming. In that sense, what do you expect, or what would your wish list be in terms of the NDCs that India has yet to update, or at least what you've seen till now and what you
So
want it
for
to be?
me, I want to go back a little bit and say 1.5 degrees centigrade is not, in my view, the just target. In my view, the just target is 1 degree centigrade. That is what we wrote about in the Earth Commission. We got it published in Nature. We presented it to the World Economic Forum plenary. Why do we see 1 degree centigrade as the just target? Because you can try to limit damage to less than 1% of the global population. And as you go towards 1.5, the degree of people who will be seriously affected goes up. And as you move on to 1.5 plus, which is sort of coming back to 1.5 at the end of the century, will have massive more damage, and at 2 degrees, much more damage. And of course, this is irreversible, and it is into the next few centuries. So it will cause huge damage to India. The heat that India will face, the melting of the glaciers that India will experience, the high wet bulb temperatures that will expose people to extreme health. This is going to be a real big problem. And also saltwater intrusion, extreme weather events. It's not a joke. It's going to be very, very expensive for countries of the global south. So for me, the question over here is, are we going to focus on protecting people today and into the future? Are we going to focus on using fossil fuel? So let's talk about fossil fuel. 78% of the fossil fuel is in the global south. If the global south makes the argument that we will use our fair share when the global north did not leave its fair share, now that's a very logical argument, and I hear this very often. But if they use that, everybody loses. And so the question is, can developing countries leapfrog? So they need to leapfrog intellectually, so go beyond this neoliberal capitalist idea to much more deepened multilateralism, a completely different economy. So intellectually, they have to leapfrog. Technologically, they have to leapfrog. They have to leave the fossil fuel underground and see, can we use the sun that we have to get to a much better renewable energy system? And they have to move forward in terms of institutions. They have to leapfrog institutionally. And if they can do that, then they're okay. So when Africa is going to develop, and when it says, we have discovered new fossil fuel, and we want to use this new fossil fuel to enhance GDP, that it is their right to say that. But my argument to them would be, can you leapfrog? Can you jump ahead? Can you not get stuck in the fossil fuel world, because that's going to affect you much more? And this is also a question for India. We have a colleague from India who's written a paper for us, and he shows us the fiscal dependence of the Indian system on the fossil fuel storyline. And how can we unpack that fiscal dependence and try to create a new narrative? And this requires brain power. It requires intellectuals in India, but also in the West, to sit down and think about these issues.